Hey everyone, James Lynch here, and this is the Fanatics View Hockey Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, post them in the chat. I'll get to every single one of them during this stream. Today we're going to talk MVP candidates so far for the season in the NHL. There's a couple of different candidates, and there's been a lot of talk about different stuff there. So we'll get into that. We'll also get into some scores from last night, some big results last night in the NHL, including not so great result for the Vancouver Canucks. We'll talk about them and their future. But we have some breaking news this morning, and we're going to start with that first off the top. Then we'll get into a bunch of other stuff. But off the top right now, some news out of Pittsburgh. I got the jersey behind me. Tristan Jarry placed on waivers today at 2 p.m. And yeah, it's been a really rough season for Tristan Jarry. Remember, he just signed that contract last year, and it just hasn't worked out. So the Penguins going in a different direction by the looks of it with their goaltending. We'll see if there's a buyout there. We'll see what happens. We'll see if anyone claims him. I don't think he will get claimed. He has not had a good season the last couple of years. And you look at the stats, it sort of backs it up there. 8 games this season. 22 games played this season. 8 wins, 3.31 save percentage, 0.886. That's not going to get it done. And last night we saw, another loss for the Penguins, which certainly could be, put on his shoulders here. So it's really unfortunate what's happened to Tristan Jarry. He's actually from his parents or from the same town that I'm from. And his parents actually have a grocery store next to the town where I live in. So, I'm always rooting for him. I'm not obviously a Penguins fan by any means, but, I was hoping things would turn around, but really does not look like it's going to be the case here with the Penguins. So we'll keep an eye on what's going on with Tristan Jarry and the Penguins, but obviously disappointing news out of Pittsburgh as they're going in a different direction with their goaltending. But let's get into all the action from last night. Then we'll go through some stuff we got here on the channel. Obviously, my guy Taylor working around the clock with everything that's going on. So we'll start first. There's a lot of games. Some of these I won't go into too much detail. The Capitals beating the Anaheim Ducks. Actually, just while we're doing this, let me just grab my coffee. Got to make sure I got that to stay alert here. So yeah, the Capitals getting it done. No real surprises there. The Capitals have been great all season, really firing on all cylinders and getting things done. So the Washington Capitals successful in shutting out the Anaheim Ducks. We'll see who, it was as far as the goaltending, it was Logan Thompson, who's been a good addition for them. That's been one of the sneaky trades that happened in the offseason coming over from Vegas. Logan Thompson really finding his footing in Washington, and they're not missing Darcy Kemper by any beat. But this was the game last night that really, I think, sealed the fate of Tristan Jarry. You look at it there, the Seattle Kraken coming out on top against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and handing them a 4-2 loss, I should say. And you look at it there for Tristan Jarry, it's 14 saves on 17 shots. That's not going to get it done with 4 goals allowed. So the Penguins going in a different direction with their goaltending. Kraken getting some offense here from Adam Larson. Capo Caco has actually been quite the acquisition for Seattle. That's been a good move there by Ron Francis, and Shane Wright getting an assist last night. I don't know what Shane's been up to this season as far as his stats. Actually, want to go look right now. I haven't seen a whole lot of Shane Wright, obviously top pick by the Kraken. And this year, just 21 points in 42 games. So not too bad for Shane Wright, again, as he's sort of looking to live up to that potential of the being a high draft pick there. Some other action we'll go through last night. The Blues getting it done over the Flames. These are going to be 2 teams down the stretch that are going to be battling big time when it comes to making the playoffs. The Bruins with an upset over the Lightning here. The Bruins were at home, but the Lightning obviously been very good this season. Vasilevsky doing his thing, 18 saves on 22 shots. On the other end, Jeremy Swayman playing quite well, 43 saves. So that's the type of goaltending you need to get it done. The Bruins getting 2 goals in the second and in the third period to improve their record to 22, 19, and 5. The Sharks upsetting the Red Wings at home. That was impressive. The Blue Jackets, I think that's 5 straight wins now, getting it done over the Flyers in the shootout. Very good stuff there from Columbus. Hard not to root for them after everything they've been through in the offseason. The Dallas Stars taking it to the Leafs 4-1, 2 goals in the third period. Jake Ottinger playing well, 27 saves on 28 shots. And on the other end, Joseph Woll, a little bit of a struggle there, letting in 4 goals, but you need a little bit more production. As you can see here, they do not have anything from, I guess there's 1 goal from Austin Matthews, but not a ton of offense other than that. So the Leafs, I believe that's 2 in a row for them as far as losses go. I have to double check that because I know they lost on the weekend to Vancouver. Yeah, they lost to the Canucks and they lost to the Hurricanes. So that's a 3-game losing streak for the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll see if there's any sort of panic there in Toronto. The Panthers taking out the Devils. Really good physical game last night. Of course, you saw the hit last night. Good response there by the Devils. But yeah, this is a great rivalry, the Panthers and the Devils. The Senators getting in the win column over the Islanders. This was the big game, though, last night. The Jets absolutely taking it to the Canucks. It was already 3-0 in the first period, 5-0 in the second. And just with how weird this game's been, of all people to score for the Canucks, it's Niels Höglander finally getting a goal after a long drought there. And the Jets, Kyle Connor completely owning the Canucks, 3 goals, 1 assist, and everyone's panicking here in Vancouver. And we'll talk about the Canucks a little bit later, but I do want to get into some MVP talk. The Canucks now dropping to 19, 14, and 10. We'll look at the standings a little bit later, but they are certainly on the outside looking in. And just quickly going through some of these last games here. You had the Predators beating the Golden Knights. Good win for Nashville. I still don't think they make the playoffs. The Avalanche beating the Rangers. The Rangers continue to lose, although they do get a point. And going to OT, and the Montreal Canadiens continuing their streak, getting it done over Utah at home. Of course, the big news for Utah, John Marino returning to the lineup, one of their big offseason acquisitions back in the fold. And yeah, so that's all the action from last night. As far as on this channel, on Fanatics View, my guy Taylor, giving you guys the best stuff you can possibly get. Jonathan Marchessault, post-game availability, Nick Bjugstad, John Marino, and then the head coach of the Utah Hockey Club. You got Pete DeBoer talking about the big win last night. And then we got some Canucks pregame stuff as well, Devils and Panthers. So again, this is why you got to stay tuned to Fanatics View. All your coverage for pre and post game stuff is here. Okay, let's get to some MVP talk here. Canucks Army had a really good article, as far as like mid-season awards. We're kind of at that point as the All-Star break and the, I guess the Four Nations break coming up here pretty soon. And this was from actually Oilers Nation. We'll go through this list here as far as who people voted for MVP. So coming in at first is Leon Draisaitl. Then you got Nathan McKinnon, Quinn Hughes coming in at third, Connor Hellebuck at fourth, which is a bit surprising. I figured he'd be a little bit higher. And then Kirill Kaprizov coming here as well. And one interesting thing, if you look, because Canucks Army did something on this as well. Let me just wait. My computer's going a little slow here. Not sure what's going on. Where are we here? Yeah, I was trying to find, there was a great article here with them comparing the stats here. Let's see what we have. I'm just trying to find this here. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to find the article that was comparing. I should have had this ready to go. I'm running a little bit late this morning. I think this is it. Okay, can't find it, but it was basically comparing the numbers of Quinn Hughes to everyone else in the league. And it was, oh yeah, here we go. I think this is it. Yes. Okay. This is what I was looking for. So if you look on here, Quinn Hughes coming in on, obviously some Canucks fans took some issue with Quinn Hughes coming number 3. There could be an argument that Quinn Hughes is the MVP this year, but if the Canucks don't make the playoffs, I don't really see much of an argument for Hughes being the MVP. You got to actually get to the playoffs. And, Quinn Hughes, I think, is the MVP, but I mean, the way things are looking now, I don't think the Canucks are going to make the playoffs at this point. And the Oilers and the Avalanche certainly are. Now, David Quadrelli, shout out to him, managing editor over the Canucks Army, had some interesting stats to kind of compare. So they were talking about Makar and McKinnon and the 5-on-5, kind of looking at the stats a little bit here. So Makar is only, if you look at the stats here we'll go to JFresh, which is a great follow on Twitter, by the way, when it comes to stats and everything else. So it takes a look like, talking about Cale Makar's results, and obviously Makar's not in this conversation, but there is a lot of talk about, Hughes and Makar as far as the Norris goes. And if you look at here, Makar with, McKinnon, his stats are quite well. Makar without McKinnon, not looking so good, 43%, a lot lower there. And Quadrelli going into the details a little bit more with the Quinn Hughes one. And you look at it here, Hughes with Pettersson or Miller, 57%. Hughes without Miller or Pettersson, his stats are actually higher, which is crazy. So Hughes is playing better without Miller or Pettersson. 60%, 59, and 60. Everyone else without Millerson and Pettersson, 42%. So Hughes is really the backbone of the Canucks. And the reason I bring this up as well is because, we saw a glimpse of it on Saturday. Obviously, the Canucks were in prime time against the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I think for a lot of people that don't get to watch the Canucks, whether they're on the East Coast and they're not staying up to watch the games, Hughes really has been an impact player for the Canucks. And you got to factor in something else. This obviously won't count in the Hart voting, but considering the mess that the Canucks have been through this year with injuries and the whole Pettersson-Miller thing, the fact that Hughes is still performing at this level is quite remarkable. So anyways, this article from the Canucks Army kind of goes through the case for Quinn Hughes to be the MVP and kind of looking at the competition here. And, look, Leon Draisaitl is having an amazing season, and it's pretty hard to do that when you've got a guy like Connor McDavid on your team, but Draisaitl has been the better player this year, which has been insane. He's got 63 points, 3 behind Nathan McKinnon, like you can see there, and just elevating his entire team. I think Hellebuck as well should get some serious consideration. The goaltending for Winnipeg. I'd like to see the stats. I don't have it handy on me with the Jets when they have Eric Comrie in net instead of Hellebuck. I think, obviously I don't know how many games they've even lost with Hellebuck this year. He's been outstanding. He's at .928 this year, which is leading the NHL. You can see he's got 5 shutouts already, so his stats are just unreal. And he will be the starter, I'm assuming, for the Four Nations for the Americans. And then there's Nathan McKinnon, who's always in the mix here. It's a bit of a down year for him, as you can see there. Kaprizov is another guy as well that I think you don't have him on Minnesota. They don't have nearly as much success. So, I'm fine with this list. I think it's fine. I think I would put Hughes ahead of McKinnon, though, and those stats sort of back it up. But saying that, I would also be fine with Hellebuck being over Hughes at this point, just because of the fact that Hellebuck is, again, sort of the backbone of the Jets, although the Jets got a lot of offense yesterday. I mean, you get 6 goals. That's a good sign that your players are playing well. And I'm glad they also brought up, these are some other votes, Makar, Jack Eichel, Zach Werenski. We'll get Troy on here again. Obviously, Troy was, it was great to have him on the show last week, our expert when it comes to Columbus Blue Jackets talk. But he spoke very highly of Zach, and I think he's starting to get some notoriety as one of the best defensemen in the league. So, they don't have Werenski. I don't know if they're a playoff team, honestly. I think that's how well he's been playing. So, if you're watching this, let me know where you're leaning on the MVP talk for the NHL so far this season. Again, I could see Draisaitl winning this just because the Oilers have had a lot of success with them, and it's been interesting to see how this is sort of unfolded with the league and everything else. So, interesting discussion, and we'll obviously revisit this a little bit later as the season moves along. Okay, let's get to some other stuff. We mentioned the scores from last night. Let's get to the standings like we usually do. We always do this sort of a week in review, and let's have a look at where things are at. And I like looking at the conference standings. That to me is the real indicative one. So you look at it there, the Capitals still on top. They were this time last week as well, 63 points. And they have games in hands on the Devils. So they're really leading the way. I think they might actually be first overall in the league, if I'm not mistaken. So they are ahead because they have a game in hand on Winnipeg. So Winnipeg getting that win last night. Winnipeg's 30-12. It's amazing. So very impressive there for Winnipeg. Golden Knights not too far behind. But the Capitals leading the way, and this was one that I did not predict at the beginning of the year. I think it's very evident that the Capitals were dealing with a lot of stuff last year, from injuries to everything else, and also the goaltending. I mean, they're getting great goaltending here from Logan Thompson, so that's certainly helping their case for being first place. You got the Devils shortly behind. Devils finally get a goaltender. Look what happens. They end up in second place in the East. The Leafs aren't that far behind, even though they're on a losing streak right now, 56 points. They have Carolina, though, having a game in hand, so Carolina could very well be ahead. We'll go through the standings right now, and then we'll also go through the points percentage because that's a little bit different. So right now, you got the Capitals, Devils, Leafs, Hurricanes, Panthers, Lightning been playing a little bit better. The Bruins have clawed their way back a little bit to 7th place, and you got the Jackets in playoff position, although the Senators having a game in hand, they could certainly pass the Jackets as well. So the battle for 8 will be very interesting. The Canadians are obviously chomping at the bit. Detroit looks a lot better under Todd McClellan. So it's going to be a race, I think, between all these teams towards the end, but I think this is pretty much set for the East, although we could have some surprises as well. But you're looking at it here. The Flyers, Penguins, Rangers, Islanders, Sabres likely not going to make it this year. Now, the points percentage tells a bit of a different story. You got the Capitals, Hurricanes, Leafs, Devils, Panthers, Lightning in at number 6. And then you got the Senators, who would actually be in a playoff spot, and then the Jackets. So it's the Bruins who would be on the outside looking in, based off the points percentage. So that's kind of interesting because the Bruins have had a couple games in hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So right now, if the playoffs started right now, it'd be the Jackets and the Capitals, Hurricanes and Senators, Leafs and Lightning, Devils and Panthers. I hope we get the Devils and Panthers. That would be awesome. Okay, over on the West, like I said, Winnipeg and Golden Knights and the Wild have sort of been the leaders of the pack for most of the season. You'll see the Stars have improved a little bit here. They were a little bit lower on the standings last week. The Oilers have slipped a little bit, although they're tied with Dallas, I guess, in terms of points. Got the Avalanche. The Kings have slipped a little bit too. They're down to 7. And then that battle for the 8th spot, you got the Canucks, point behind the Calgary Flames. They have the exact same games played. So it's going to be same sort of thing in the West. That 8th spot's going to be a bit of a battle here. Even St. Louis, they have 2 games in hands, but they're still 46 points. Utah, now that they got Marino back, they could make a push at the end of the year. I would keep an eye on them. And I think as far as the rest of the teams go, Ducks, Kraken, Predators, Shark, and Blackhawks, they're all at the bottom. The Blackhawks are a complete disaster. I saw a number of articles actually the other day about Seth Jones not playing so well. I haven't watched a ton of Blackhawks this season, but that's interesting that one of their sort of high prize, one of their high contracts on there is just, interesting to see that he's not really performing quite well as far as the contract goes. So that's where we're at there. But if you look at the points percentage, it's a different story. Again, Jets, Knights, you got the Stars coming in at number 3, the Oilers, Wild, Kings, Avalanche. I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So yeah, Calgary's there, and Calgary's actually ahead as far as the points percentage because even though the points, I guess, I'm not sure how that works. I think because it's look at that though, they're both minus 11 goal differential. Look at the Canucks home record, 7-8-6, and the road record, which once was very good, now down to 12-6-4. And a bit of a drop-off from St. Louis beyond. So it's going to be a dog race to number 8. We'll see if the Canucks makes any moves so far. I know we talk a lot of Canucks on here, but obviously I watch them probably more than any other team. We talked about this last week. I would be curious to see if there's any moves to be made with the Canucks prior to the trade deadline or to the All-Star break, but also keeping an eye on some of the expiring contracts on the Canucks. They got a couple UFAs. Let's go through that actually right now. Actually, before we do that, I wanted to get into a tweet from Ryan Henderson yesterday, producer of Donnie and Dolly here on a local station here. This is a great tweet. I completely agree with what he says. There's no guessing about who the Canucks are. They're 20-something shot. So here's the issue that a lot of people have with the Canucks right now. Not only are they losing, but they're playing really, really boring hockey. That's always been Rick Tocchet's style, but fans are getting really restless because, at least in the Boudreau era or the Travis Green era, they're playing more exciting hockey. But, they're losing, but at least there's, we're seeing some more excitement here. With Tocchet, it's still the same dump and chase style, more defensive, not as offensive. And this is sort of the issue that plagued them last year in the playoffs. They couldn't score any goals. And last night you're getting 1 goal. That's not good. So he says there's 20-something shot, 1 3-goal team that's badly constructed blue line, which is very much true. The defense looks terrible. Heavy reliance on the goaltender. They're also incredibly boring to watch, even in wins. So fans getting very restless here. The one thing I would look at with the Canucks, and we talked about this again last week, is the expiring contract of Brock Besser. So what we're hearing out of Vancouver right now is that the Canucks have offered, it seems like, a shorter term deal around 5 years as opposed to 8. I think Besser's going to be, this could be the only chance that Besser cashes in on a huge contract. So I think he's going to want like an 8-year contract similar to Pettersson and Miller. And if that's the case, I don't think the Canucks are willing to go that far as re-signing Besser. So you look at it there, he's making 6.6. He'll probably want something in the 8 range. Travis Konechny, I know, has been, a similar comp. Let's look at the Philadelphia Flyers as far as what Konechny's getting. I think it'll be a similar contract. And if you look at Konechny, I think he got 8 point something on their list there. So let's have a look. Travis Konechny getting, where are we here? He's getting 8.7. So I think that's more in the range of kind of what actually, So Konechny's actually, he's on an 8.7 deal for the next couple of years. A bit of a shorter deal though, but I think that's kind of the range that they're the Besser's hoping to get. So we'll see if he resigns. But Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford, they are fine with being ruthless. They're fine of getting rid of players no matter who they are, and we know that he's a very good locker room guy. Brock Besser, so that would be a bit of a blow there. But I'm of the belief that if Besser wants a long-term deal and the Canucks don't want to do that, that you trade him. Now the question is, what are you getting? Obviously, it's a bit of a rental because whoever's acquiring Besser, I'm assuming, would want to keep him long-term. So you got to weigh that in. I don't know what type of market there is for a winger like that, although Besser is a right winger, and that could fetch something good. And he's on a very good contract at 6.6, although the stats, if we're looking at the Canucks this season, have not exactly been so great for the Canucks. What's Besser up to this season? Certainly down from last year, but if we look at the Vancouver Canucks and we look at Besser's stats, so right now Yeah. 27 points. He's a -7, 15 goals. So don't think, I mean, I guess he could still hit 30 goals this season, but 12 assists, 27 points. He's number 6 on the team. I mean, you got guys like, it's crazy that Pettersson has more points than he does. Although, I mean, Pettersson's paid a lot more. Miller's got more points. So yeah, Besser, not a great season for him in terms of the stats and this being a contract year. So a lot of people are thinking Miller or Pettersson could be traded. I think Brock Besser could be the first name because I don't think the Canucks are going to bite. And I think Besser does want a long contract. The question is, who wants a right winger like him? Canucks are going to be looking for, and this has been out in the news already. They've been talking about how they want, ready player now. They don't want, players that are ready to play now. They don't want picks. They don't want prospects. They might have to, though, depending on what the offers are out there for Brock Besser. We know that there was talk about trading Brock Besser a couple seasons ago, but obviously he rebounded in a big way last year. So we'll see what the market's like for Brock Besser, but I would not be surprised if that's the first domino to fall. And again, they figure out the JT and Elias thing in the offseason. But yeah, I think at this point, the Canucks are willing to move on from Besser, especially with the fact that they've got Jonathan Lekrimaki up with the team, their high draft pick from a couple years ago. That essentially I think is going to be replacing Brock Besser. What year was that? Was it 2019 they drafted him? He was drafted 2022, sorry. So yeah, it was number 15 overall, and he has worked out well. So you have your replacement right there for Brock Besser and Lekrimaki in the next couple seasons. So I think Besser will be the first to go, but again, we know the premium you have to pay to get a defenseman in this league, whether it's left or right shot, doesn't matter. So keep an eye on Brock Besser on the trade market as far as a domino to go. A lot of the reports that are coming out right now, though, are saying that the Canucks are leaning towards trading JT Miller over Elias Pettersson. We talked about this last week with Troy, and it makes sense. Miller's older. He's on a less of a cap hit. People like his grittiness, but you watch most Canucks games, even last night, Miller looks checked out. Doesn't look like he wants to play in this. Doesn't seem like a good environment for him. So I could see Miller getting moved, but what are you going to get for him? Who really wants a JT Miller, right? We know the Rangers were suitors. Columbus may be in the mix. We'll see. You got to have some sort of cap space. That's really what's plagued most of these teams here is that, they don't have the cap space to make trades like this. So you got to bring salary back. What else is going on in the news these days? So getting back to the standings here real quick. And some of these teams might want to make some moves. Like the Predators, you got to figure, I know they won last night, but they're still, I think, a ways off from making the playoffs. What type of moves are they going to make? Are they going to unload some of their, free agent signings that they had last season? Is that something that's going to happen? Are they going to, look at, doing a rebuild? I think there's a lot of questions about Nashville right now. So keep an eye on them as we get closer to, like I said, the Four Nations and, the playoffs. Chicago, San Jose, things are not going well there. Look at this differential, -41 for San Jose. That's crazy. That's got to be the highest in the league. It certainly is. So that's up there for sure. Meanwhile, on the flip side, Washington's got a goal differential of +46. It's pretty crazy. So keep an eye on these teams as far as making moves. And then the bubble teams that are looking to make a push, like a Calgary or Vancouver. We know Rasmus Anderson's been very vocal about wanting to stay in Calgary, which, at the beginning of the season didn't look like that was going to be the case, but Calgary certainly surprised as far as what they've been able to do. One prediction I'll make right now for the playoffs and as far as the rest of the season is I think you're going to see a bit of a drop-off from Minnesota and Winnipeg. If you look at the PDO stats, let's see if we can get those stats, actually. PDO stats, NHL. So if you look at the PDO, let's see, man, the site looks like it's from like 1990. So leading the way for PDO, you've got Carolina, the Kings, New Jersey Devils, Edmonton, Florida. Then you got Winnipeg up here pretty high. Minnesota's decent as well. And then lower to the league, you've got obviously the teams that are kind of where they are. So, low PDO is probably a good thing. High PDO is not a good thing. So Carolina, for example, they're playing above what they're supposed to be playing as well. It's not the be-all and end-all, but it's certainly a good argument when it comes to kind of differentiating between things. Let's get to some other news as well, guys, as far as what's going on in the NHL right now. I mentioned the Tristan Jarry being on waivers. John Klingberg, the former Leaf, is apparently looking for a team. Let's find John Klingberg. Let's bring that up here. So I know the Oilers are, it looks like the Oilers are the front runners for John Klingberg. Let's find up on TSN. Leafs, Oilers, Senators interested in John Klingberg. Let's make sure we don't play that. According to Darren Drager, free agent defenseman is getting interest from several teams, including the Leafs, Senators, and Oilers. Remember the story with him? Like he was hoping to cash in free agency, he ends up signing that 1-year deal with Anaheim, has a very bad season. The Leafs signed him last year, did not play well, had some injury issues. And again, you can see it there, appeared in 14 games of the Leafs last season, 5 assists before requiring season-ending hip surgery. He's a right shot defenseman, 1 year, $4.5 million deal with the Leafs last year. We'll see what he can fetch this time around. And we'll see what he looks like after the surgery. That's going to be something that is certainly going to be interesting and something to pay attention to. What else do we have? Let's look at some games for tonight. Let's get into that maybe, guys. Let's have a look at what's going on the slate tonight. We'll look at some betting odds as well, courtesy of our friends over at Bodog, or my friend, I should say. So if we're looking at some of the games tonight, I'll give you my picks and where we're going. I did not bet any games last night. I kind of ran out of time. Just 2 games on the slate tonight. You got the Hurricanes and the Sabres and the Wild and the Oilers. I'm guessing the Hurricanes are under 2-1 just because of the fact that they played last night. Although I guess the Sabres played last night too, did they not? Otherwise, I'd say that's probably good odds there for taking the Hurricanes. Yeah, they'll be tired, but it's the Hurricanes. They're a lot better than the Buffalo Sabres. So yeah, Sabres did not play last night. The Hurricanes... actually, I don't think the Hurricanes played last night either. Yeah. So why are they so low here? Hurricanes haven't played since Sunday by the looks of it. So yeah, minus 180. Am I missing something here? Why are the Hurricanes? I mean, other than they're on the road, I think minus 180 is pretty good odds there for the Hurricanes there. And then you got the Oilers and the Wild. Oilers did play the other night, not last night. And the Wild... I guess the Wild didn't play last night either. Okay, so 2 fresh teams. Wild are at home. The Oilers played on Monday, getting that 1-0 winning over the Kings. The Wild have not played since Sunday, so they'll be fresh. But the Oilers, minus 220, not getting a ton of value there. Maybe look for a McDavid, point or goal or something like that. So that's where we're at there. And then looking ahead for the rest of the week, the Devils and Maple Leafs, we'll see if the Leafs can break their streak. They're at home. I think traditionally they played the Devils quite well. Also Sheldon Keefe, the former coach of the Leaf, a bit of revenge there. You've got the Sharks and the Blue Jackets playing against each other. Jackets can continue their hot streak, and the Sharks, again, winning the other night. Capitals and Senators, good test for the Senators at home. You got the Ducks and the Lightning, the Red Wings and the Panthers. Panthers gritty win the other night against New Jersey. Flyers and Islanders, big tilt on the East. And then you got the Flames and the Blues again. Why are they playing back-to-back? I don't like that. Not back-to-back, but, same game, but just a night off in between. Got the Kraken and the Jets. Seems like a win there for the Jets. The Predators and Blackhawks. Stars and Canadians, 2 teams that have been playing well. Rangers and Utah. Oilers, Avalanche, and the Kings and the Canucks. Knowing the Canucks, they'll probably beat the Kings, and then they'll go and lose on Saturday to Edmonton. That's just the way things have been going this season. They play one good game like against the Leafs, and they play really bad against the Jets. Friday, we got the Penguins and the Sabres, Golden Knights and Hurricanes. On the weekend, we got the Flyers and the Devils. So a lot of good action here on Saturday, including the Oilers and the Canucks. The Canucks, last time they played the Oilers at home, if I'm not mistaken, was that really embarrassing game back in November where they ended up just completely collapsing in the second period onwards. So see if the Canucks can do anything there. And yeah, a lot of good action coming up here in the next little bit. And then I got to figure out exactly when the Four Nations break is, Four Nations face-off is February 12th to the 20th. So that will be when we're going to see some time off for these teams. So we're kind of getting to that date here. It's we're about a month away from that. So we'll see. A lot of teams got some decisions to make. Will there be some trades? Will there be, an opportunity for teams to, add or subtract? Like, I guess, a lot of teams these days seem to be adding more than subtracting. And I know the Canucks are going to be very active here, but we'll see how much they're able to do with, some of the cap restraints that they've got going on right now. And it'll be interesting to see what they're able to do in terms of flexibility with the roster. And some of these other teams, like I said, like the Senators, they're probably going to want to add. Let's actually have a look at some of the bubble teams and looking on their cap space situation. I think that would be a fun exercise right now to do. So let's go have a look. So right now, for example, in the East, you got a team like, Montreal's got lots of cap space. So if they're in a playoff position, is this the year they make a bit of a push? I don't see why not. How much cap space? Yeah, look at this. Montreal's got $7.5 million in cap space. That's a good weapon to have. Some other teams in the East, that are on that bubble. You got the Senators. What are they looking like? They don't have any cap space, so they'll have to figure things out. And I believe when's Brady Tkachuk? No, he's signed for a number of years, so he's okay. But Claude Giroux, got to make some decisions on him. I don't really think he's worth the 6.5. Yeah, they'll have to figure some stuff out here with the Senators. Some other bubble teams on there. Let's go to the Wings. Don't think the Wings have much space now with some of the guys that they had to re-sign. Wings are currently at $4 million in cap space. And the Bruins don't have any cap space either. And over on the West, Calgary, what's their? I feel like Calgary's got to have some cap space with some of the. Oh yeah, they got $17 million in cap space. Jesus, sorry, $36 million. Although they must have some injuries. Yeah, Mantha's injured, but not really though. Jesus, they must have some of the most cap space in the league right now. It's a good position to be in for Calgary right now. It's interesting because you go into the season, you're going, this probably isn't a playoff team. Not only are they a playoff team, but they're also kind of doing this rebuild thing as well. And it's gone well for them. And they've exceeded expectations here. $36 million though, Jesus. So that's going to be very interesting to see if Calgary makes any sort of moves here. And they've got picks as well. The Canucks, I mentioned them. They do have Dakota Joshua on the IR, and they've been accumulating cap space, but they might be able to make one or two moves. They got $2.4 million in cap space currently. And then you've got, let's look at St. Louis. I feel like St. Louis has got to be near the edge in there. They got 3.5, so they're even better there. And what about Utah? I feel like Utah's got a ton of cap space, right? Yeah, they got $11.6 million, although that I think is tied up in some injuries, right? Dylan Guenther, or sorry, not Dylan Guenther. What's his name? Dursey is $6 million, so that's what's taken up some of the cap space as well. So be interesting to see if some of these teams with cap space weaponize that. I've always said if you got some cap space, try and move some things around, take on some picks, take on some bad contracts. Like Utah already still is technically paying Shea Weber, who's been retired for a couple of years. So that's something worth noting. What about Nashville? Let's go have a look at them. $13 million in cap. How do they have so much cap space? Kind of surprising. Guess they don't really have anyone like over 10 million. Even Saros 7.7, like that's pretty good contract. Brady Shea's at 7. Roman Yossi's close to 10. So Roman Yossi, the highest paid player, he's 34. He's getting $9 million a season. So they'll have to make some decisions on that and which direction they want to go. But Nashville's another team. Again, maybe they could. I mean, I think they need to do a rebuild at this point. It's not working with them. And they're not making the playoffs this year. So let me know if you guys have any questions. Keep it coming, guys. We're going to wrap the show up here pretty good in about 5 minutes. So let me know what's on your mind, guys. As far as stuff going on in the league right now, the Four Nations, like I said, that's about a month away right now. And any other sort of news right now, there's not a whole lot going on right now, other than, like I said, off the top, we talked about some mid-season awards. Let's go back to that actually for a second. So as far as who voted for who, Draisaitl seems to be the leading candidate for the Writers Association and people that are smart about hockey. Leon Draisaitl, McKinnon, Hughes, Hellebuck, Kaprizov, Kucherov getting some votes, Cale Makar, Jack Eichel, Zach Werenski. No issues with that. Is there anyone that's missing on here? I'm trying to think. I think all the teams have pretty much been covered. Like, it's interesting, some of the more successful teams like a Carolina, for example, they don't have an MVP. They're just a well-balanced, well-oiled machine. They don't seem to have anyone that's like, standing out from the pack, but it works for them. They've always been a good regular season team. McKinnon, obviously. I mean, Colorado's got a lot of weapons, not just with McKinnon. They've got, obviously. Actually, that's one thing worth kind of taking note of. Isn't Rantanen's contract up? Isn't he looking to get a new contract for the Avs? Yeah, so he's at 9.2. So that's something to keep. There's a couple contracts. So I mentioned Brock Besser. You got Rantanen, who's up. He'll be UFA next year. You got Mitch Marner with the Leafs. Could there be some movement there? Do the Avs maybe look at Mitch Marner? I don't know. Do the Leafs you got to imagine Brad Treliving, GM of the Leafs, saw this unfold with Johnny Gaudreau. They thought he was going to stay. They didn't trade him. They kept him. They doubled down on Johnny Gaudreau, and they felt like, hey, we're gonna keep him, and they ended up getting nothing for him in the end, other than cap space. Do the Avs want to fall in there? I think if you're a GM, and I think this is totally fair even to the player, if you know you can't reach a contract by the trade deadline, despite where you are in the standings, you want to get something for them. I think that's a better strategy than just saying, oh, this is going to be our year. Because let's be honest here, I don't think it's the Avs' year. I think you look at Vegas, you look at some of these other teams in the West, I think they're better, and I don't think this is the year to go all in. To me, it's only if your team is really firing on all cylinders that you don't trade a UFA like that, and you hope you can work things out. But if your team, like the Canucks will be lucky to make the playoffs. Let's put it that way. So that's why I'm at the point where if Brock Besser's gone, Brock Besser's gone. It's no big deal. The Leafs are playing well. Is this the Leafs year? I don't know. I have some questions about the Leafs. I think this could be, and what's been the big knock on the Leafs? The playoffs. Who's been getting a lot of crap in the playoffs? It's Mitch Marner. Let's go look at the Leafs right now. So do you trade a Mitch Marner? He's having a good season, right? What's Marner's statistics at? He's at 10.9. So right now he's at 60 points, 14 goals, 46 assists. That's a good season for him. Let's actually look. I don't even know the answer to this right now. Let's go look at the actual stats for this year. Who's leading the way? It's always good to check in on this every once in a while. So leading the way is Nathan MacKinnon at 70 points. You got Draisaitl, Kucherov, Rantanen. So again, Rantanen's having a good season. He's probably going to want some more. But can you come to an agreement if you're Colorado? You got Marner, number 5. McDavid slipped a bit this year. I don't know what's going on. Is he injured? What's happening? He was injured earlier in the year. Kyle Connor, 59. Jack Eichel at 8. Scheifele at 50, coming in at 9. And Jack Hughes at number 10. Over at Florida, you got Sam Reinhart, Jesper Bratt for the Devils. Again, what's interesting here is you look at it here, no Carolina players. Right? Where's the top Carolina player right now? Sebastian Aho, 44. Actually, no, I think Netchus is ahead of him. Yeah, he's at 15. So still, they have one player in the top 15. But look at this, Zach Werenski, 50 points for a defenseman. And Quinn Hughes is a little bit lower here at 47, although he missed 4 games, but still plus 14 on a team that's not looking like they're going to make the playoffs. Very impressive. How about Dylan Strome for Washington, 46 points? Don't think anyone saw that coming. So yeah, it's been very interesting to see where certain players have fallen with their respective teams. But yeah, here's your top 10 right now. Hughes, Scheifele, Eichel, Connor, McDavid, Marner, Rantanen, Kucherov, Draisaitl, Nathan MacKinnon still leading the way. As far as the goal leader this year, that is Leon Draisaitl, 31 goals this year. So he's already hit 31 in 43 games. Very impressive. Reinhart coming in at number 2. Florida's sure happy they re-signed him. Scheifele, Connor, Point, Rantanen. So that's the thing with the Jets. Like, you're getting the good goaltending, and then you got, 2 of their guys right now in the top 5 for scoring. That's awesome. Nylander there, 24 goals. So this is where we're at right now with the NHL standings, and things are certainly looking very good. Okay, good time to wrap up the show here today, guys. Really appreciate you tuning in. If you're watching the replay of this, hit me up on Twitter for any hockey takes or anything like that. I'm more than happy to chat with you guys. That is at Lynch on Sports if you guys want to tune in and give me your hockey takes. As I'm sneezing here. Yeah, we'll be back next week. I'll try and get a guest for next week. This week I was kind of a little bit busy, but we'll try and get someone on. I kind of want to get maybe Stephen Ellis back on to talk about the Leafs and see where they're at this point in the season. Again, we're coming up to the break here pretty quickly. Yeah, let me know your hockey takes or even leave a comment on this video. I do come back and check the comments every now and then. So appreciate you guys tuning in today. I will see you guys next Wednesday. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is the Fanatics View Hockey Show. I'll see you guys next week.